What's up, sports fans? We are here for another edition of the DC Sports Huddle. I am at the controls yet again, Rob Woodfork, alongside the group here, Dave Preston, George Wallace, and back for another round of abuse is, what's that say? Jay Breezy? Are you a rapper?
That's right, man.
You're
Jay
a rapper.
Breezy.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Jay Breezy.
Yeah.
He spits hot fire. Well, the Washington
I stayed late for Jay
team,
Breezy, really?
Yeah, right. The Washington football team, big test here going to Buffalo, and that's something that's coming. That's not from me. That's from the coach, Ron Rivera, saying this is a measuring stick game against a very good Buffalo Bills team that was on the brink of going to a Super Bowl last year. And as we know, guys, neither of these teams has been back to a Super Bowl since they met in Super Bowl 26 30 years ago. Believe it or not, that was literally a lifetime ago. But George, you were at practice today. Obviously, we are stuck in rain. You were stuck in the traffic trying to get back in that rain. Were they practicing outside? Were they in the bubble? What do we glean from practice?
Yeah, they were in the bubble today because it was just torrential out there for most of the day. But Antonio Gibson with the shoulder was out or limited today at practice. Matt Ioannidis did not go today with the knee. So something to keep an eye on the defensive side. I mean, obviously they're going to have their hands full with the Buffalo Bills offense, put up 35 last week against the Dolphins. So definitely, as you mentioned, a measuring stick. They were practicing with crowd noise inside the bubble today. You could hear it from where we were in our little media tent. But you know what, guys are like, they're ready for it. I mean, they're ready to embrace their first road trip. I mean, everybody's making a big deal about Taylor Heinicke's first road game of the year. I mean, this guy, not much phases this guy. You can tell already, you know, I mean, so nobody's really worried about it. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Guys are looking forward to it because they haven't played in a road environment in such a long time. And some of these guys haven't ever played in a road environment. So they're looking forward to the crowd. You know, they know it's going to be a great test. I mean, you can say all that now, but when you get out there and there's 80,000 people and it's a very good team, then you may be rethinking that you're looking forward to it. But it is pretty cool to go on the road. And these guys are looking forward to it. And it's definitely going to be a big test. I mean, look, we've talked about how this, they're playing all four finalists from a year ago. The quarterbacks, the murderer's row of quarterbacks continuing this week as well. So Chase Young, Montez Sweat, that defensive line are going to have to get after Allen and put some pressure on him and cause some turnovers. And then Heinicke's going to have to do his thing on the offensive side too. So looking forward to it, though. It's going to be, you know, Ron Rivera said it multiple times, measuring stick, and Jack Del Rio said it today as well, that anxious for the challenge and to see where this team is after 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, the first 2 weeks defensively, very unimpressive, especially for a unit that many thought was going to be one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL. Jay, what are you seeing going into this Buffalo game?
You know, Buffalo basically needs to, you know, they played the Dolphins last week, okay? Tua got hurt, 35-0. It's tough to pitch a shutout in the NFL. We know that. They got stymied in week 1 against the Steelers. I was thinking that they were going to, you know, probably be 2-0 at this point, but here we are. They'll be home. They're bringing in Washington football team coming off their first win. I like Buffalo. I like them flying under the radar so far because of all these other teams. The Raiders kind of showing a little surprise, and now so Buffalo just needs to do what they need to do. Allen, you know, he's only getting better from each start. The defense for Buffalo, I'm looking to see how they're going to want to pitch another shutout. Tough to do. So I'm thinking, I don't want to get ahead of myself to give my prediction, but I think that Washington football team needs to have their heads on a swivel because this Buffalo team really wants to be there with another chance to get to the Super Bowl, like you said in the open at the end of this season. And it does start this Sunday once they take on the Washington football team. So it'll be a good one. I'm anxious. I didn't get a chance to look at the weather to see what that's going to be about, but nonetheless, no matter what, it's going to be a good game. And I think it's going to be a high scoring one. Stay tuned for my score at the end of this episode.
Oh boy.
See, now last week, Jay,
I didn't know you were doing that.
I learned, George. I learned to wait, right? You know, let it come to me. Don't go for it.
That's right. You gave it away right in the first 90 seconds. People tune out right away.
Exactly.
He can learn.
You trained me well,
you can
George.
teach an old dog new tricks. You can do it. Dave, I see two factors here that will determine this game that I haven't heard very many people talking about.
Are they the same ones that I've written down?
They might be. Let's see. Number one, the familiarity factor. We all know that once upon a time, Sean McDermott was the defensive coordinator under Ron Rivera in Carolina. Stands to reason they're running a very similar style of defense that they did, that Washington does. And obviously have Ron having coached alongside him and had him coach under him really was he'll know his tendencies. He'll know what he's thinking before he thinks it. And we've seen a lot of these matchups between, the proverbial teacher taking on the student. And more often than not, it seems like the teacher gets the better of the student. And the second factor, which I'll get to in a second, the Washington football team does not have the same team as Buffalo. I don't think that's even debatable. Buffalo has the better team, but I think the familiarity factor might just be the thing that is the equalizer, if not giving Washington the advantage. The second factor, the rest factor, because Washington's coming off a mini bye, essentially, having played the Thursday game, getting the weekend off, having a little extra time. So that might tip things in Washington's favor. Was that what you were thinking, Dave Preston?
No, although that sounds quite a bit like the guy who takes the team from the West Coast and the East Coast at 1 p.m. that has been proven extremely wrong over the first couple of weeks of the season. My two things for this week, Rob. One, will this team beat itself? Washington, 9 penalties last week, 8 the week before. They didn't necessarily beat themselves with penalties against the Giants, but you could very well make the case that they did so with their 8 flags against the Chargers. They had that stretch of 3 whistles over 5 plays that basically cost them 3 points of field goal. It almost felt like last Thursday, the Giants were trying to cost themselves more than the Burgundy and Gold with drop passes, with penalties as well. Penalties are a huge thing because while 9 penalties for 80 yards might not destroy you against the New York Giants, a team that has started 0-2 now for 5 straight seasons and is destined to be in the cellar again this year in the NFC East, it's going to hurt you against a team like Buffalo that when they smell blood in the water like they did this past Sunday against the Miami Dolphins, they pounced. That game, it was a tight game, and all of a sudden you turn around, oh my God, it's 35-0. That game got ugly late, and you can see Buffalo doing so if Washington hurts themselves. Another key for me is third down. Washington, 30.4% converting third downs. That's 32nd in the NFL. And right now you've got basically Terry McLaurin and a bunch of other guys who, Taylor Heinicke has played well in spots. He was 6 of 8 on that game-winning drive this past Thursday against the Giants after throwing that pick. But he needs more than Terry McLaurin to stretch the field. Ron Rivera earlier this week talked about how he was looking to get the ball to other guys, moving the ball around. That's a really nice thing in theory, but on third down, Terry McLaurin and I guess maybe Humphreys, those are the guys who, and even McKissick a little bit, but there's no real guy outside of McLaurin that I want the ball going to on third down. And so they need to move the sticks better, much better against the Bills. And the Bills are a team that I think with 8 sacks are tied for second in the NFL at this time. They got to move the ball better, especially on third down against this Bills team, because I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game like the game against the Giants was, and they can't beat themselves.
And to Dave's point, George, it seems like we haven't called Logan Thomas's name as much as we did at this time last year. That was a guy who really stepped up and was able to be sort of that second guy for the quarterback, just having an option other than McLaurin. I know Ron was talking about having more opportunities for Cam Sims in particular, trying to get him more involved in the offense because we haven't seen much of him over the course of the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, you haven't. And he mentioned that specifically this week for sure. And look, Taylor Heinicke obviously has a relationship and a good rapport with Terry McLaurin. He used Logan a little bit last week in that Thursday night game, but I think it's just a matter of him. He's just going to get comfortable with it. And I think you're going to see once he puts all these guys to work, you're going to see other things open up. Like ideally, you get Cam Sims the ball, and then he becomes a threat. Other guys open up. Same thing with Logan Thomas and Terry McLaurin. So to your point, though, Dave, like I want the ball in Terry's hands anytime. I mean, especially on third down. But look, these other guys have proven they can do it as well. I mean, Humphreys, we always talk about the this offseason, this summer with the connection with Fitz and Humphreys. Maybe not so much, obviously, with Taylor, but Taylor worked last year with Logan and Terry McLaurin. I think as you see Heinicke getting more comfortable, keep in mind it was just week one, his first start too. So as he continues to work with the ones, get more comfortable, I think you're going to see this offense open up a lot more. I really do.
All right. I mean, and they're going to need to against this Buffalo team that has a reputation for being tough defensively. A lot of the same things that we've been talking about here in Washington. So it bears the question then, guys, is Taylor Heinicke for real? Because we've seen a very limited sample size of him. He played well in that game. He did some really bad things like the interception in the fourth quarter. He did some really good things like the 2-play drive. And then, of course, getting them in position to kick the winning field goal there at the end. So a lot of good things he's thrown for. And I'm hoping to get this stat right. I think he's thrown for the third most yards of any undrafted player in the first 3 games of his career. That's what it is. So, I mean, he's getting a lot of yards. He's making plays here and there. And I've said this before, he's playing some of the most competent quarterback play that we've seen out of any of the guys who've played the last 2 seasons. So can they go to Buffalo and knock off a really good team with a guy like Taylor Heinicke at the helm, Jay Brooks?
Yes, he does have the tools to do so. It just seems like the team plays a little bit differently when Taylor Heinicke is under center or in shotgun and running around back there. He gives his reads really quick, and then he scampers if he has to. There's, he's aware of the pocket. Long term, I don't know, but I think he's getting a pretty good sample size. Came in relief. He got this start against the Giants. He has this one on the road. He knows it's his team at least for a couple of 3 more weeks, all depending, of course, on Fitzmagic's injury. He doesn't really have to look behind his back to see if anybody's gaining on him. Allen is there just as an emergency. I think he's gonna. I'm concerned, and I wanted to ask George about the compression sock on the right foot. Is that anything, or right leg? Is that anything to worry about?
If you listen to him, he says no. He got hit the other night, but a little more precaution. It doesn't seem to be out there as he's moving around with it. Just the little portion we could see at practice. Again, we can't see much, but he's not even listed on the injury report, so I don't see that as being a big deal now.
And there you go.
Until it is.
We all have to segue to compression socks at some point, right, guys?
I can't wait. Well, that being said, adrenaline is a great thing. And I believe come Sunday at 1:00, Taylor Heinicke will be able to guide his team to a victory. But again, stay tuned for that score pick coming up at the end of this episode. Rob?
Oh, he's perfected the tease. Dave Preston, is this kid for real?
I think he's as real as anybody that we've had at quarterback since Kirk Cousins departed. Even Alex Smith during his run where it seemed like he threw for 179 yards 3 or 4 weeks in a row. I wish I'd gone to Vegas.
Put together the 3 games. 170.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. So I think I feel like he is their best quarterback since Kirk Cousins departed. And the question is, you look at the quarterbacks who have been here in the last 20 years, what has happened to them? They've either been mismanaged out of town, or things have not worked for them for different reasons, or they've suffered really bad injuries, like Alex Smith, who it appeared as though he was turning the corner when he suffered that injury against Houston. You look at Kirk Cousins, the management didn't want to sign him. RG3, that thing blew up like a bad dumpster fire. John Beck didn't work. Obviously, that was never going to work. But I think I think ESPN, John Kine did a piece on the best quarterbacks since Mark Rippon in the last 30 years, because they've started 32 guys since then. And even Brad Johnson, perfect, had a great season. And Burgundy and Gold Management found a way to make him upset and get him out of the organization. So as long as the organization doesn't mess things up, this guy has a chance to be here a long time.
And I've made the comparison before to Kurt Warner. I feel like that is his best case scenario there. He's 28 years old. He still has enough tread on the tire, hasn't played enough in the past to even have wear and tear on said tires. So at age 28, I mean, he could have a good long career here if everything sort of falls into place, to your point, Dave. What do we think is going to happen in Buffalo? We'll go.
What do we think is going to happen in Buffalo?
Yeah.
I will lead off the predictions.
All right, go.
I'm going to go Buffalo 17, Washington 4. I picked 2 safeties. Chase Young is going to get 1 safety, and he might get a second one too. So I'm going 17-4. I looked foolish enough when I picked the Giants to win 18-11 last week, so I'm not going there again.
Why are you this
17-4, boys?
George, I'm expecting a more normal score from you.
What do you want? 6-4? You want 6-4? That what you want? I'm surprised you didn't say a 4-4 tie. If you're going with fours, I mean,
where are those 3 ties coming into play?
Hey, you know what? 4 safeties in a game. I'm not going to go there.
But we will.
Jay's point. Do I think they can do it? Yes, I think they can. Do I think they will? No. I think it'll be too much Buffalo this week. I would expect, though, I expect them to play well. I think they are confident now. At least the offense is. The defense, I mean, look, even though they won that game the other day, they tried to lose it. I mean, you still let Daniel Jones go for a 58-yard run, minor hold or not. It was still a 46-yard run after the –
Yeah, 95 yards.
Yeah. So I think the defense needs to get a lot better, and this quarterback's a lot better than Daniel Jones. So another good test for this defense. I don't think the offense is going to be the problem. As weird as that is to say, maybe, I think that just Taylor is just playing with a lot of confidence. And the guys like the way the whole hair on fire thing is what they keep going back with. He's just out there having fun and playing ball. And I think that, can you sustain that all season? No, probably not. But at this point, while he's continuing to work with the ones and learn this offense more and get more with his wide receivers and get more rapport, it's going to be fun to watch. I think the defense is going to have the problems, though. I think that if that's going to be the issue come Sunday. I think they'll keep it close, though. I expect an entertaining game, and you say you're using it as a measuring stick, and I think Washington will be with the Bills. It's not going to be 35-0. I think they're going to give them a good game and stay competitive. I think at the end the defense gives up too much. I'm going to go something like 27-20 Buffalo Sunday.
Wow, I mean that's pretty close to what I was picking. I'm going 28-24 in favor of Buffalo, and this one's going to go down to the end. And that's, I mean, you talk about a measuring stick game. Just hanging with these guys is progress for Washington.
Right.
You talk about this is a quarterback that's better than Daniel Jones. Well, he's not only better, but he's every bit as mobile. So Washington has historically struggled against mobile quarterbacks, guys who can make plays with their legs, guys who can extend plays and improvise. So I think there will be too much of that. Washington's defense is going to have, I'll say this. I think Washington's defense gets back on track against Atlanta. I think that's the game that you see their defense start to really take hold and start to get in a groove. This is the wrong game to try and get right. So I think they'll stay in the game thanks to the offense and some improved play, being able to move the ball more and maybe finish a couple more drives than they, maybe would have under Fitz. But ultimately, Buffalo's just too good, especially in their place where fans are dropping their bodies on top of tables and all kinds of other craziness. Jay,
it happens. I'm gonna do that right now. I want to hear Jay's score, and then I'm gonna go and jump on the table.
All right, that's great.
2-0, Dave. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna go with another shutout by the Bills. I'm going to go Buffalo 26, Washington football team 23. And it will come down to near the end of the game, as I believe Buffalo's kind of looking ahead to Houston next week. Okay. I know that the Washington football team is probably looking ahead to that Atlanta game, but I just think Buffalo has too much talent. They are home. it's all just pointing in a victory for Buffalo as they kind of get over that first week loss to the Steelers. The 35-0 win over Miami's nice to build on, the division game. And now you got Washington coming in. I think it all points to a 26-23 win for the Buffalo Bills, as the Washington football team will fall to 1-2 on the season.
And I mean, let's be real. That's kind of where people sort of had them pegged to be before the season anyway. If you look at the schedule, I mean, even the most, even the biggest fans, the most delusional fans were still saying probably 2-1 at this point. Well, let's get to the 2-minute drill, guys. And I'm going to lead this one off because that Baltimore Ravens game on Monday night, Sunday night. I don't know my days. I mean, it's whatever. Sunday night football, they were able to really get off the schneid, so to speak, against the Kansas City Chiefs. That was a game they needed to win. That was a game Lamar Jackson needed to win. But it really, for me, called to mind, and I said this in my column on WTOP.com this week, they needed to make two moves in particular in the offseason that would have them in position to a better position to compete for a Super Bowl. That is sign J.J. Watt and trade for Julio Jones. And those two moves, even with the injuries that they're dealing with right now, I still feel like those two moves would have put them in a better position, because let's be real, the championship window, if it's not closed now, it's closing. You got maybe another year or two, because Lamar Jackson is still cheap. And if he MVP balls this year and gets them back to the playoffs, yeah, that's going to be a lot of money. And the aforementioned Josh Allen got paid, and Lamar's going to need to get something to that effect, and probably more, given the fact that he's, for all intents and purposes, playing two positions for you. So there's no greater asset in the NFL than having a franchise quarterback on his rookie contract. And that window is about to close. And once that window closes, I'm afraid that Baltimore's going to, I don't know that they're going to be able to get to a Super Bowl realistically once that closes, because of the salary cap issues. Jay, did you have a final thought?
I'm going to harken back to the Raiders-Steelers game. I actually went up to Pennsylvania last week to watch the game. I grew up a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I no longer am a fan. I am a sports reporter. So I had a chance to really watch the game through a different eye with a Steeler and a Raider fan. And what I noticed is the Raiders are for real. Carr, who I kind of questioned for a lot of years, why are you there? But he showed me a lot on Sunday. The team did what Dave Preston doesn't like. They came from the West Coast to the East on a short week and were able to pull it out over a Pittsburgh Steelers team that I think the window has shut, to be honest with you. And it is the quarterback play. He's not Tom Brady, of course. They're different ilks. I mean, there's no line in Pittsburgh for a running game or for a passing game with Ben's arm right now. So I think the Raiders were basically able to take down the Ravens and the Steelers. Everybody thought the Raiders would be 0-2 at this point. Look at them now. They're just winning, baby. And I think that they're going to be that surprise wild card team that's going to surprise you. Real quick on your Chiefs, I think the Chiefs got a wake-up call. They've been going into games lately just getting by. That spark that got them that Super Bowl win is gone. They're now like, hey, we're just going to show up and we're going to win. And that ain't going to cut it with teams like the Browns and the Ravens and the Raiders and all these other teams out there that want to raise the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the season. So my takeaway is that the Raiders are for real. They've got some talent on that team, and they are a team to watch as, again, one of the two wildcard teams coming out of the AFC.
Well, before we get to you, Dave, just real quick, I don't trust John Gruden. I agree with you on Derek Carr. I think he's way underrated as a quarterback. But John Gruden is, now that Jeff Fisher's out of the league, John Gruden is the most overrated coach in the NFL, probably in the last 15 years or so.
I'm not a Chucky fan. He won that Super Bowl with all kinds of shenanigans. We all know that.
Yep.
And that's all I'll say.
It was a perfect confluence. You were in Pittsburgh. It was a perfect confluence of events that led to him getting that one Super Bowl, and he hasn't even sniffed the conference championship since. So,
well, those profile shots of him, whew, don't turn sideways, Johnny. He's eating a little too much there in Vegas. He still says, seriously, he does say that he is working just as hard as he did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But 20 years ago, again, he had the Super Bowl as a gift to him, and that's all I'll say.
And I'll just point out that we don't condone fat shaming on this show. Dave Preston.
We're talking about windows closing, gentlemen. And what's my thought this week is Washington Capitals open up training camp at Kettler Ice Complex. There is a window that is closing. It's not the window that is slammed shut at the ballpark, where the Nats, just 2 years removed from a World Series championship, are now in revamping mode. There are still some great pieces here in Washington to compete for a Stanley Cup. The question is, can they? They've gotten past the second round just once during Alex Ovechkin's career. They won the Cup that year, but since then there's been nothing but heartbreak and heartache against sometimes very inferior teams. And hockey, more than any other sport, in my opinion, is one where it really does take a village to win a championship, because in any other sport, Max Scherzer can pitch until his arm falls off. Tom Brady will take every snap for the Tampa Bay Bucks. LeBron James can play 48 minutes and then go every minute in overtime. But hockey, with the exception of your goaltender, your best players are leaving the ice within 30, 40 seconds. So Caps did make some moves to build around the core that has been here for quite some time. And it's one of those things, the recipe, you don't really know if you've made those right moves until November or December. Sometimes you think you made the right moves around New Year's, and then you realize in April, ooh, that was fool's gold. So I'm very curious to see how this Capitals team comes out and comes together. And it's what's also amazing is that Alex Ovechkin has been an absolute gift for this area for the last 15, almost 20 years now. And he is still performing at a high level. When does he start to slow down? Nicholas Backstrom has shown signs of slowing down the last couple of years, but who knows how many more years this gang will be able to realistically say in October, hey, the Cup is the goal, and we're not making people laugh by saying that. So let's go see how the Caps are going to fare.
All right. Okay. And we keep talking about closing windows, and the window has closed on this episode of the DC Sports Huddle. We thank you for joining us. And I am Rob Woodfork at the controls yet again, signing off for Jay Brooks, Dave Preston, and George Wallace, who's off doing a sportscast, being smart and funny as he is wont to do. So with that, let's break the huddle.
Right.